So at the start of the new turn, the Ventrue Primogen, remember, was in torpor. He's come back, but first, Red, the Diva, was the regent this turn with the most points. Now they had a handful of cards. And what they did was they turned in, I don't remember what, the Patron of the Arts for blood, turned him into food, and played a card, the Surveillance Photos, that they drew. Over here, for the Nosferatu, they drew 2 cards, I believe. Grabbed a laptop computer, which adds 3 points to a mental attribute during a mental challenge. Equipment can't really be used for anything else, so you might as well play it, I guess. And a graduate assistant as a retainer allows you to discard from play to add 5 points to a mental attribute for a mental challenge. If that's not used, he's probably going to be used as food, which is probably reasonable for a grad assistant. The Nosferatu came back from torpor, and that cost 1 of his actions, gives him 1 blood point. Then he ended up eating, I believe, the respected professor to give him enough blood points to probably last the turn. And over here, the Inside Informant was played and used by the Gangrel. Now, did they? They didn't draw a card. They should get another card there. Meddler, during the challenge phase, you may gain 2 personal prestige each time you assist the target of a player challenge. Yeah, those are probably more valuable in general, not as strategy cards, but for the 1 point advantage that we use. We haven't seen those played very much. These cooperative kind of bonus, if you use them, strategy cards. Maybe because my players are just not very nice. Anyway, he played the Inside Informant to remove one of the Diva's control markers from the medical center, which was actually the only one there, gave it over, and dropped their points down to equal to the Ventrue. And the Mechot, they drew a card and played it, the Binding Contract, and they also drew an activation card, which they're holding in their hand. Okay, so that's that. Now we're going to go to the movement phase. Look at the cards, figure out where people want to go, who they want to challenge. We saw a very violent turn last turn, actually. Okay, for the challenges, the Diva were unable to get any support to handle any of the events. The Nosferatu, however, were able to get the philosophical debate. They went with the Mechot and the Gangrel, the trailing players, made an agreement. They had enough points to just dismiss it, essentially. And they got an extra point because of their strategy card. So that was kind of cool, especially since that's what they were defending. But they did convince the people in the trailing end, hey, this is good for all of us. And it was good for the Gangrel, more questionable for the Mechot, but they were all okay to go along with it, even though it helped everyone else perhaps more. Then for the Ventrue, they made an attack on the Mechot using using social skill, and they actually lost it and ended up losing their business tycoon. And then, well, the Mechot come back. We had the Gangrel in between, but the Mechot came back with a mental challenge at +2. They burnt a blood in order to increase their die roll, and or to get an additional die roll, and then stole a section, the mercantile sector, from them, from within there. And the Gangrel, who came in between there, they played an attack on the federal investigation. They actually cut their deal with the Diva and the Ventrue and said, look, man, I'm in last. We can all benefit from this. Let's put some distance between ourselves. I'm in last out of the 3 leading players. Let's put some distance between ourselves. And that happened, and they were able to defeat that as well. So now there are no events in the way, and, well, we've got kind of a point spread here because the Ventrue lost some ground to the Diva when the Mechot took a territory. But other than that, they're all kind of clumped together at the lead, and we got a couple of people trailing quite far behind. A lot of personal prestige was paid out here, so that's where some of the bonuses came from. Alright, well, now we're going to go to the actual territorial phase. And again, each person's going to get 3, but Some of them are going to get more. So for example, the Daiva control an entire region. So they're going to get 4 pieces to play this time. Who else controls an entire region? Gangrel are close, but they don't quite have it. I think it's only the Daiva who have that advantage. So everybody else is just at the normal 3, which means the person who's winning is getting an additional lead over the rest of the players. Now, a longer game, maybe this would be less of a worry, but playing the shorter game as we are, this edge is very frightening. Of course, in a longer game, it's also frightening because you can sort of steamroll and get so much power that it's very hard to unseat someone. But there's only a few turns left here, and, well, there's only a few turns to begin with. Alright, I'll start the placements and see how things wind up there. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. The Ventrue also have a bonus. They have the religious sector. I saw this here and didn't really recognize, gee, they actually own this. So they get an extra token as well. I'm wondering if I've got their points correct in that case. So they've got 10 points, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20. 23 plus 3 should be 26 points, and they're in the right place point-wise. I just didn't recognize it for this. So let me go over what's happened so far. The Daiva made a move on the Morgue, and the Gangrel were able to defend against that. The Daiva put 2 counters in that, rolling 2 dice against 1 with the government aid helping the Gangrel. Well, the Gangrel still won and drove 2 red counters essentially off board. They never had made it there, and now they're established in the Morgue. And then the Nosferatu took a free move into the industrial works. Now I've got to figure out what to do with the Ventrue. They'd like to expand their power somewhere, but it looks to me like they've lost the right to the financial sector with the Mekhet taking the business tycoon. They're not going to be able to grab that. So now the question is, well, there's the community leader for red, which makes the this area kind of iffy. Where can they go that would work for them? This doesn't look too terrible, although they're facing a major competition there. That's their main player opponent. So if they put 2 of their tokens there, they're going to get 2 dice to 1, but red gets a +3. Now red's got this problem, but they don't really have anywhere tremendous to expand to anyway, and kind of want to hold this. So they're going to go 2 dice to 2. It's going to go 3 dice to 2, 3 dice to 3, 4 dice to 3. And we got really a big fight here. This is, one of the more major things you can do. Red has no bonuses other than the +3 that they have for being established there. So if we roll, we get 12, 13, 23, 29 to 9 and 4 is 13. Blue is going to win this, so all these red tokens go away. And blue makes its way into the theater circuit with control, which is going to give them 2 points and take 2 away from the red. Okay. And now we'll go on with the rest of the players and the rest of their chits. But that was a pretty major fight, and I'm kind of glad I focused in on that. Now a little bit more battling. The Gangrel ended up putting themselves in the police department, driving the red power out of there. The Mekhet taking most of the business sector here, although the financial sector with the Nosferatu kind of scared them away. Nosferatu are controlling the industrial area. They haven't quite gotten it all, but they're getting as much as they really can afford to. So we're seeing kind of a swinging of power here with the Gangrel now in the lead, and they're close to a second sector. Everybody down here in the kind of neighborhoods, well, kind of poor neighborhoods, ended up not really making, although I think Nobility Hill's not a poor neighborhood, not really making any additions there. They played elsewhere, breaking up red's set here, etc. So it's kind of an interesting situation. Well, end of turn. Nothing too exciting happening here. We have the blood point loss. That standard deterioration that comes every turn. We've got people like the Mekhet dropping pretty low. They spent one for an ability, so they were kind of weakened there. All right, well, I guess we go on to the next turn. And so the Gangrel were the regent this turn, and cards came out. They actually had to play a card because they had too many in their hands, so they played this Meddler, which allows them to get 2 personal prestige each time they assist a target of a player challenge, and the target wins. Useful, maybe, maybe not, but they couldn't hold 4 cards in their hand. They had something they didn't want to show, and the other 2 are even morally useless. For the Mekhet, they were and are looking at how they're kind of low on blood. Of course, they have the flask. They chose not to attack, to drink the business tycoon, because they want to get control of the business district first. They're fairly close to that, and they think they can manage it. Over here we had the library played. It allows you to re-roll a die once during mental challenges. Again, not terribly useful. And they actually probably should have held it as a card, but they own the library, so it seemed like, okay. And mental challenges are kind of a weakness of theirs. So maybe they can get lucky that way. Over here, another retainer was played. I think somebody took blood, I'm not sure. But now we got to start placing people and trying to influence things. One thing I forgot to mention there, we had a new event, the Modern Inquisition. It's a territorial event with a 24, which is a little higher. The mortals are aware that its fate is influenced by higher powers. They take matters into their own hands. The effect here is going to be each player has to choose and discard one of their influence tokens from the board. And this is a 5-4.1 if it's defeated. Obviously, the people with influence counters really do want to remove this, although even the weak players kind of want to remove it too. The Gangrel committed to challenging the Modern Inquisition event, and the Daiva and Nosferatu agreed to help, but they would have needed a 6, and finding that out, the Daiva pulled out, and that makes it impossible. So everybody's pulling out now. Well, the Gangrel are, but they've already expended their action, their challenge for the turn. And this, basically the players who had their tokens spread out the most wanted to defeat this. The Ventrue and the Mekhet have big piles and are kind of willing to take the hit for a while they see actual effects taking place on the other players, weakening them. So that's where we are with that. We'll go to the Mekhet, who don't have a challenge, and then over to the Daiva, who I believe are going to actually challenge the Gangrel now. Well, the Mekhet didn't have a challenge, but the Daiva attacked the Gangrel for a social challenge and actually lost a couple of prestige points because of that. But then they played, I don't know, one of their cards. The surveillance photos allowed them to play again. They went with another social challenge, this time winning and taking what they wanted, the government aid, because they're positioned for a fight there in the government. Then the Nosferatu managed to convince the Gangrel and Daiva both to go ahead with the attack against the Modern Inquisition. They rolled poorly with a 2. All of them pulled together their cards and basically agreed. Basically, we're able to get enough points with like 4 card plays to succeed in taking it out. But then the Ventrue were convinced to play a card by the Meket saying, okay, I'll throw a card in too if the Gangrel come in. Well, the Gangrel hearing this aren't going to come in with an additional card. So the event stays and everybody loses points, with the Nosferatu losing 5, the Diva 4, and the Gangrel 4. And this puts the Ventrue in a powerful position here. They, of course, had to throw away a card they really liked, the City Courts, which if they could have gotten control of, looked like an iffy thing, they would have a +3 bonus to defending territories they controlled. That didn't happen, though. They had to get rid of the card. And now we're going to go to the influence phase. Let's see who's got what. Red has been pared down to just the 3 counters that you get automatically. The Nosferatu haven't gained anything yet, so they're there. The Ventrue still have their 1 area, so they're going to get 4 counters. But everybody's got to remember there's a counter that's going to be lost this turn. The Gangrel, did they get an area yet? No, they haven't taken one yet. So they only get 3. And I don't believe the Meket have anything either, so they only get 3. And now we go to the play of the counters and how they get resolved. Okay, well, there was some interesting fighting over in the financial sector. The Ventrue wouldn't allow the Meket to help defend them. So the Meket played in using a binding contract to fight against the Nosferatu as they entered. And I screwed up what happened here, but they used the binding contract, they used their business tycoon and forced this to become an uncontrolled area rather than the Ventrue area. They set up their own defense in addition to whatever defense the Ventrue had. Managed to get their own counter into play. The Ventrue have extended themselves into the harbor, and we see a powerful holding the Diva over here in the slum or neighborhoods or whatever you want to call. But not a lot has moved here. The Nosferatu have gained control of the industrial sector. Now we have to cope with this thing, the Inquisition, which means each player is going to have to select an influence token that they remove. And we start with the Gangrel. They can't remove either of these without losing control, so they've got to look elsewhere. What else can they lose? Well, they'll lose Chinatown. That's worth a point to them. We go to the Meket, who have some big piles in various places. They're going to lose 1 off Nobility Hill. That doesn't really hurt them. We go to Red, who does not have piles, but has things that maybe they don't need so much, like the media sector, which they can discard at no real penalty. For the Nosferatu, they're a little weak. They're going to get out of the Cathedral. That doesn't look terribly valuable to them. And finally the Ventrue, who also have piles of pieces. You don't really want to remove most of these. They'll take something out of the Cathedral. Oh, they haven't played all their pieces yet. Whoa, what? They have excess pieces they can inject. Well, they're going to go for the financial sector against the Meket with two dice. And the Meket get 1 at +8. This isn't a great roll, but my 2 dice got me a 10, another 10, just a huge roll that ends up putting my extra pieces here and getting me the 3 points finally. Okay, but now I get to remove a piece, and I'll remove that from the Cathedral because that's where I'm not really planning on expanding out of all the places I have pieces. Now we have the normal blood drain, where everybody loses a point. And there's people getting really hungry. The Meket and the Ventrue are close. And now we're in what I think amounts to the last turn, actually.